I know it sounds like something straight out of a movie, but it's 100% what happened to me about 24 years ago. When I was still relatively newly married, my then husband, and I moved into a townhouse-style apartment. The 2 floors of our apartment were on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the building, and the management office and mailbox area was almost directly below us on the ground level. The woman who managed the building was older, didn't care for the property well, and usually spent most days chain-smoking Camel non-filters in her office. And being a hateful old racist, imagine renting a place from Juno the social worker from Beetlejuice, but less helpful. She really resented what we had the townhouse, claiming we lied about my being pregnant when we moved it, because she didn't want to rent that unit to people with kids. She also made a few disparaging remarks about my husband. Due to his race, she was a real peach truly. So after kiddo was born, I was a som just busy keeping the house clean, and the baby occupied without a car or local mom friends. After lunch, the kiddo needed a bath. Anyone who's fed a 9-month-old baby food knows the mess that can happen, so I went upstairs and ran the tub. Soon I had the baby sitting happily splashing in one of those suction cup bath seats. Important to note, it's the middle of winter and we had no heat, an issue I'd been fighting Juno the landlord about for a while, among other maintenance issues, like my arcing ceiling fan or the garbage disposal that was held on with duct tape and leaked. We basically had to keep a space heater in every room to keep the chill off. I had taken one of the space heaters in the bathroom to keep the bathroom warm enough for bath time and had it sitting out of reach on top of the bathroom counter. I was standing in the bathtub getting ready to lift the baby out when all of a sudden the space heater started to rock back and forth when it had not been rocking before. I had this horrible feeling of dread as I looked at the heater, and I just reacted because I knew I couldn't get both of us out of the tub in time. I reached down to grab the baby seat, ending up pulling it up off the tub and dropping the baby over the side of the tub to the bathroom floor just as the heater got to the end of the cord. It thumped into the shower door, bounced off the edge of the tub, and landed on its side on the floor a couple inches away where it shut off. When I looked over to the corner of the bathroom, that part of the room seemed to just get darker, like it was filling up with shadows. There was no smoke, no change in lighting, and no windows. It was just darker. I also started to smell cigarette smoke, Camel non-filters, which I knew the smell of well, from being in Juno's office all the time to get things fixed. The smell was so thick it made me cough and my chest ached, but I couldn't see any smoke haze. And I felt this overwhelming sensation of hatred and malice, like someone was standing there giving me a death glare. I grabbed the baby and a towel and ran downstairs. I was so freaked out I couldn't bring myself to go back up there. So I used some diapers from the diaper bag and kept the baby wrapped in the towel and cuddled up to stay warm. I stayed down there the entire rest of the day until my husband got home. Every so often I'd look up the stairs at the bathroom, but I didn't want to take the baby up there, and I was afraid to leave him alone downstairs. When he asked me why the baby wasn't dressed, I told him about the heater and the smoke in the bathroom, and he went up to check, figuring it was yet another maintenance issue. There was no electrical issues, no damage to the outlet, no smoke, and no cigarette smell. He put the heater back on the counter and turned it on, watched it for a few minutes, and it didn't rock, so it didn't rock itself off the counter earlier. He laughed it off, but later that day, we heard Juno's adult son downstairs near the mailboxes, yelling his head off at people. And that's when we found out she'd had a massive heart attack in her office earlier that day, and he'd found her dead in her chair, with a Camel non-filtered still in her hand. My family moved into a somewhat older house on a lot of land when I was 7. We had the most wonderful Akita, at the time a breed known for protecting its family. My dad traveled a lot, so my mom would often be home with just us 3 kids and the dog. One day we get home from wherever and Pluto is at the top of the stairs growling, refuses to go down there. My mom naturally feared someone had broken in, so she made me, my older brother, and my little sister go sit in the car with 10-year-old brother in the driver's seat, telling us if she wasn't back in 10 minutes to leave and find somewhere to call the police. She ventured back into the house with a knife. Came back out a few minutes later and hadn't found anything, so we went on with our lives. Many years later, once I'd reached adulthood, my parents revealed to us that someone had previously hung himself in the unfinished portion of the basement where the laundry room was. My poor brother's room was in that basement. When we lived in that house is when he first began to have issues. He's now deceased after many years of drug addiction. I'm fairly convinced that house was haunted. From the time I was about 12 or 17 years old, I lived in what I believe was a haunted house. I've never had experiences like I had in that house since moving out. A few specific memories come to mind. Once I was hanging up laundry in my closet. I heard someone whisper my name in my ear clear as day. I'd never sprinted out of a room so fast. Another time, my sister and I had friends over and we decided to use a tape recorded to ask questions to the ghosts, like they do on those paranormal shows. We played the tape not expecting to hear anything, and could hear a very soft voice say I'm in the closet. We were sitting near a small closet in the basement. My parents eventually decided to sell the house. We moved into a new place before selling this place. My sister stopped by the house after there had been a couple of showings to turn out the lights in the house. She went to turn off the lights in the basement, which had multiple light switches. One was at the far end of the basement away from the stairs. She turned off the light and swears she heard heavy footfalls of someone running towards her. She ran out of the house without turning out the rest of the lights and locked the door. That was the last time either of us went back until we were in the neighborhood, and the new owners offered to show us the renovations they made. Nothing happened then, but they did ask us if we wanted to babysit their kids. We politely declined.